on the one hand, that violence, especially fatal violence, is the absolute worst sin anyone can commit, while on the other hand, thinking moral sins, remember that word, morality, are no sins at all. This, to be sure, is a radical departure from how Christians have always thought, right from the start. So let's go back to the beginning and clarify some ideas and terms before proceeding. As with other religions and philosophies, Christianity contains what we would today call physical and metaphysical aspects and teachings. Examples of the former, of the physical, are easily recognized and understood. Every Christian today agrees that murder, theft, and lying are sins. They also agree that charity, helping the poor, the orphan, and the widow, are virtuous activities. Now, if you look closer, you'll notice that all of these sins and all of these virtues have one thing in common. They all have a physical or material dimension. And the more concrete any one of them becomes, the more do modern Christians take them seriously. Thus, violence is a great sin because you are physically harming someone, with death being the greatest of all sins because you've ended that person's physical existence. Theft and deception are bad too, but only in as much as they physically harm someone. If, for example, your theft or your lie leads to someone else's physical suffering, causing them, for example, to lose their wealth and or property and become destitute, Christians would agree that the theft and lie are great sins. On the other hand, it's interesting to note, and this is the point I'm leading to, how Christians take thefts and lies less seriously if no one gets hurt from them. At any rate, it's the same with the virtues. Helping the indigent, the widow, the orphan are all praiseworthy precisely because they have a physical and thus recognizable dimension. You are improving the material lot of these people. But here's the thing. Christian ethics are primarily concerned with the metaphysical, not the physical. So let's define these very important terms. Physical, or physis or physis, is a Greek word which can best be translated as nature, the real observable material world around us. When the word meta, which means after or beyond, is prefixed before the word physical, that word, metaphysical, becomes a reference to all those things that are beyond the physical, that are outside the visible, natural, material world. And as it happens, many of the most important concepts that inform a human's life, morality, abstract ideas, notions of right and wrong, even God himself, are inherently metaphysical, not physical. They cannot be reduced to matter, measured by instruments, or explained by physical causation. Take morality, a word that was once as important as it is today virtually meaningless, including, sorry to say, with most Christians. In preparing this video, I decided to ask our friend ChatGPT to define it, and it gave me a good enough definition. Morality is the system of beliefs, principles, and judgments that people use to decide what is right and wrong, good and evil, and how humans ought to behave, both individually and toward others. Now, for the longest time, Western civilization was governed by Christian morality. What are some examples of non-physical, that is, metaphysical forms of Christian morality? Well, I asked ChatGPT that exact question, and it replied, if by purely metaphysical you mean moral norms whose wrongness does not depend on physical harm, material damage, or social injury, Christianity certainly contains several such moral claims. Chat then went on to offer several, including idolatry, blasphemy, and sacrilege. Of course, anyone who knows anything about historic Christianity, as it was practiced from the time of the apostles to just a few decades ago, see this video, already understands all this. Consider, for example, the 7 deadly sins: pride, envy, wrath, sloth, lust, greed, and gluttony. Only one of them, gluttony, which is often seen as the least sinful, primarily expresses itself physically. The rest, while they can lead to physical sins, are inherently sinful, meaning they are evil in and of themselves from a purely metaphysical point of view, primarily because they harm the soul, not the physical body. Incidentally, isn't it interesting that violence and even killing, which today are seen as the worst sins, are not even listed among the 7 deadly sins? That's because violence and killing are not root causes. Things like pride, envy, wrath, and greed are. For a concise summary of moral sins, those things which Christianity is most set against, those things which most modern, that is, materialist Christians have lost complete sight of, one need only look to chapter 1 of Paul's letter to the Romans, specifically verses 18 to 32. Let me read you an excerpt. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. Therefore, God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity with the degrading of their bodies with one another. God gave them over to shameful lusts. Even their women exchanged natural sexual relations for unnatural ones. In the same way, the men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust for one another. Men committed shameful acts with other men and received in themselves the due penalty for their error. Furthermore, just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind, so that they do what ought not to be done. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. Although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. Interestingly, out of all those sins that Paul lists, and I counted about 21, only one is expressly physical: murder. The rest are purely metaphysical, meaning the harm they cause is primarily to the soul, not the body. Keep in mind, from the start of Christianity to only just recently, the immortal soul was seen as needing much more protection than the physical body, since the latter was already destined to dust. And yet, how many Christians today, while paying lip service to and formally acknowledging the dangers posed by the sins Paul, and by extension the entire Bible, warn against, really don't think of them as being that bad at all? As seen, for example, Paul thunders against homosexuality. And yet, how many Christians today are welcoming of homosexuality? Love is love, right? Any Christian who thinks this way does so because they are materialists, meaning they only acknowledge the material world, despite what they tell themselves. They cannot comprehend the idea that something that does not physically harm someone can be intrinsically bad. They are relativists. If this is how you think, if your morality, your ethical system, your understanding of right and wrong, in a word, your Christianity, is limited to the physical, I'm sorry to tell you, you're not a Christian. You're a materialist, which is synonymous with saying you're an atheist, despite the supernatural veneer you claim to believe. Honestly, what's the atheist's logic? I only believe in that which I can see and measure, and God and all of his abstract morality cannot be seen or measured in a physical, literal sense. Therefore, I don't believe in God and all of his so-called truths. Now, if you're a Christian who says you believe in God and his commandments, but ignore the majority of them because no one is getting hurt, guess what? You are a materialist. You're an atheist at heart. In fact, you're worse than the atheist. For the atheist is at least logically consistent. He doesn't believe in the non-physical, he rejects all metaphysical claims, and he acts accordingly. His entire ethical system centers around the physical. Little wonder that the preservation of mortal life is all important to the atheist. That's all there is for him. Materialist Christians, on the other hand, claim to believe in a host of profound metaphysical truths, which, if truly imbibed, should completely revolutionize their lives and values. And yet, when it really comes down to it, they judge everything according to a materialist paradigm, like the atheist. Whether someone is being physically harmed or not is their litmus test to what is good and evil, right and wrong. From here, I think we can go back to what got me thinking about this topic in the first place, the Christian military orders, which I wrote about in this book, and how so many modern-day Christians are quick to denounce them as false Christians, because they, horror of all horrors, engaged in violence. What's really happening should be clear by now. Those walking oxymorons, also known as materialist Christians, are convinced that the absolute worst sin a human can commit is to physically hurt, or even worse, kill another human. That's because they're materialists, and like atheists, they believe the material life is all there is, and thus the highest good to be preserved. On the other hand, Christians from just a few decades ago, stretching all the way back to the times of Christ, while agreeing that unjustly killing someone was a great evil, also believed in a host of metaphysical, that is, moral truisms, many of which justified killing, which in this context was seen as the lesser of two evils. Here, for example, is how ChatGPT responded in that same thread when I asked it if the Crusades were launched due to physical or both physical and metaphysical reasons. Medieval Christians, especially those who supported and participated in the Crusades, understood their conflict with Islam through both concrete persecution and metaphysical theology, and the two were tightly intertwined in their moral reasoning. On the material level, there were real and widely reported grievances, attacks on pilgrims, restrictions on Christian worship, destruction or conversion of churches, legal subordination of Christians under Islamic rule, and episodes of outright violence. At the same time, Islam itself was viewed as a profound metaphysical offense, a public rejection of the Incarnation, the Trinity, and the cross. This denial was understood not as harmless disagreement, but as blasphemy against ultimate reality, made worse by its dominance over lands sanctified by Christ's life, death, and resurrection. In Crusader logic, then, persecution and metaphysical sin reinforced each other. Muslim control of the Holy Land was not only politically hostile, but spiritually intolerable. Sacred space was ruled by those who denied its meaning. Christian communities lived in symbolic subjugation to unbelief, and false worship was publicly enthroned where Christ was believed to have conquered death. Christian moral theology held that allowing such a condition to persist endangered souls, dishonored God, and inverted the proper cosmic order. Violence was therefore framed, tragically but deliberately, as a lesser evil than acquiescing to ongoing persecution, sacrilege, and what Crusaders believed to be systemic spiritual corruption. In this way, the Crusades were justified by their proponents as the convergence of defense of suffering Christians, restoration of sacred order, and resistance to what they saw as both physical oppression and metaphysical rebellion against God. Now, if you're a Christian who does not get this, does not get all this weird talk about metaphysical offenses which endangered the soul or dishonored God or undermined the proper cosmic order, chances are you're a materialist, even if you claim to believe in a set of supernatural occurrences that took place in 33 AD. Before closing, I'd like to make three more related and highly ironic observations. First, do you know what's another less technical word for Christian metaphysics? It's spirituality. Just like secular concerns are synonymous with physical concerns, so too are spiritual concerns synonymous with metaphysical concerns. In other words, to be attuned to all those metaphysical realities and morality I've been discussing is to be spiritual. Yet how many Christians today love to claim that they're spiritual while only proving time and time again that they're the exact opposite? They're materialists. Sorry, but having an emotional experience and feeling a brief theological high while listening to a Christian song is not spiritualism. Second, today's materialist Christians, who only care about physical considerations, fail to realize that there is so much physical harm, especially in the West, precisely because the West has collectively abandoned metaphysical considerations. In other words, there's so much violence and bloodshed in America precisely because, as a society, we do not in any way, shape, or form care about curtailing things like pride, envy, wrath, lust, sloth, greed, or gluttony. Indeed, our entire economy revolves around promoting and glorifying them, even though it's these deadly sins which lead to violence and murder. Put differently, even if all you care about is the material, you would do well to order your society around metaphysical principles. Which leads to my third and final ironic observation: Islam in the West. As I have been increasingly pointing out over the years, by virtually every metric, Islam is, when compared to the West, inherently weak, militarily, economically, technologically, and so forth. And yet, destitute Muslim refugees who reach the West cap in hand are terrorizing the once mighty West, and we're supposed to see them as an intrinsic and unavoidable threat that simply cannot be stopped. In reality, even this is a byproduct of the fact that the West, including most of its Christians, acknowledge only the physical, only the material. Had they thought like their forebears, they would have concluded that welcoming in a people whose values and beliefs, that is, whose metaphysics, are at complete odds with those of the West, including hate for and violence against those who believe differently, is maybe not the wisest thing to do. But since all beliefs, values, and cultures are now seen through a relativistic prism that focuses only on the physical, hence our prized word, multiculturalism, there's no reason whatsoever to be wary of or prevent Muslims' entry into the West, even though their natural instinct is to despise, possibly attack, and exploit Westerners. Islam then is not the cause of the West's forthcoming collapse, but the stress test that is constantly exposing it. A civilization that has abandoned morality, spiritual order, and truth itself has already rotted from within, and its material husk is ripe for conquest. So there you have it. Now you know why so many modern doormat Christians are convinced that the greatest of all evils is to physically harm someone, even as they ignore, maybe even celebrate, a host of greater, though not physical, evils. They are, despite whatever they tell themselves, materialists, atheists. The only question left is, are you?
Half in the bag. Well, I heard you went on a date with Mr. Plinkett.
I did, yeah. Our first date, it went really well. We went to the movies. We saw The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise. The only weird thing was there was a guy in the bathroom wearing a ski mask that was handing out free samples of cake.
Well,
I mean, I took them, of course, because it's free cake. It was fucking delicious.
yeah. I mean, if there's a weirdo in a bathroom wearing a ski mask handing you something to eat, always just try it.
You know, you've told me that advice before, and that's why I took it.
It's good advice. Always eat the cake when it's handed to you. You know, it's funny. I also saw The Mummy, too.
Oh, do you want to talk about The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise?
Yeah. About halfway through the film, I started to get a little itchy because I forgot I was wearing the ski mask. I always eat the cake when it's handed to you.
Welcome to a new world of gods and monsters.
The Mummy is the first and last entry in Universal's Dark Universe Cinematic Universe, or the UDUCU for short. It stars Tom Cruise as a confused elderly man who seems unaware what movie he's in, who uncovers an ancient tomb that unleashes Sophia Boutella as a soul-sucking mummy. At last, cinema now has that sexy mummy that we've all been clamoring for. The movie co-stars Russell Crowe, Jake Johnson as Griffin Dunn, and a blonde woman who will work for scale. Mike, what did you think of The Mummy?
Well, Jay, I know this film has been getting bad reviews, but I have to say I loved it. No, I'm just fucking with you. It sucked. It might have been the worst film I've ever seen.
That's not true. You know what? I would describe this movie as watchable. The third act gets really tedious, but I think it was watchable, but I still hated it. I hated it for everything that it represents, which I guess we'll get into because it's way more interesting than the movie itself. Before seeing the movie, I had put a question out on Twitter where it's like, if this movie flops, is that the end of this dark universe before it even gets going? And people were responding. Multiple people were saying, it doesn't matter if it flops here, like foreign market, foreign release. And so that idea of like doing well overseas was in my brain while watching it, and it became more and more prevalent when the exposition was so on the nose and explaining exactly what was happening. And there's multiple flashbacks to a prologue just to keep reminding you exactly what's happening. And normally we say like, oh, the movie's made for dummies, but I think this movie's not made for dummies. This movie is made for people that don't speak English. And the foreign market is more important than making a decent movie. And so that was my biggest takeaway from this movie. And it just felt so pathetic.
Yeah, the long stretches of flashbacks that have voiceover explaining. There's a big one with Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
And then there's several other ones where you're saying that they could just swap out the dialogue and they don't have to do like voiceover. They could just change it out to whatever they want.
Yeah.
And for the Chinese market, they could change it out to the mystical Chinese god of so-and-so bestowed the mummy with magical power, and change the story too.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Who needs integrity or decent film?
Yeah, it's. I think the best word to describe this film is pathetic, because it even has that at the end. It has that Marvel like music. That part like where it's like ramping up to the end to get you excited for the next film. It's like copied directly from that.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like Universal Studios is just like going, what do we got?
That's all I was thinking about was like, yeah, there's the classic Universal monster movies from the 30s and 40s, and these current executives, they're just like, Marvel's big. What can we dig up? We got these moldy old monster movies. Let's turn them into action films. That was the most, like that made my skin crawl when I saw that. It's a Dark Universe trailer, which is essentially a trailer for the logo.
Right.
And it's footage from all the classic Universal monster movies, edited with like modern action music. And it's so lame.
Yeah, well, it serves two purposes. One, to get people aware of this Dark Universe concept, which I had no idea. I'd not heard of it.
It came out, like they started advertising it just like a week or two before this movie came out. They published a photo of like the casts, so it's got like Russell Crowe and Tom Cruise, and then like Johnny Depp, who's going to be playing the Invisible Man. And they're like, look, we're here, we're the Dark Universe. We're just like Marvel. I know we tried this already with Dracula Untold, but that was a flop, so that doesn't count. This is a do-over. Now we got Tom Cruise. It's a surefire hit. Everything about it feels so desperate.
Yeah, desperate and pathetic.
The next film they're doing is Bride of Frankenstein. Before Frankenstein.
Okay. That makes sense. It does.
How does it make sense?
Because they just did a Frankenstein. And Bride of Frankenstein
You're talking about the I, Frankenstein movie?
No, Victor Frankenstein, motherfucker. Don't you remember that? It happened like a year ago. They just did that. I mean, that movie was better than this, and that movie would fit better in this universe. I don't know if it's part of it or who.
No,
knows?
that has nothing to do with it. I didn't particularly like Victor Frankenstein, but at least felt like it had some personality. And that's this movie. It's like eating a rice cake. Like there's nothing to this.
Yeah, but I can see them wanting to do Bride of Frankenstein because that hair is so iconic, and it's things we know again. But this movie was a disaster. There was a thing that I noticed, like, because this movie is directed by a prestigious filmmaker by the name of Alex Kurtzman, part of the Kurtzman and Orsi writing duo that wrote the first 2 Star Trek films. I'm gonna get in this new franchise.
Said, fuck Star Trek. I'm gonna have my own cinematic universe. Here's the Mummy.
But yeah, aside from the lengthy scenes of exposition dialogue that were just embarrassing, like, oh God, when the scale blonde woman, like, when she's like, you're just a sly adventurer who spends all of his time searching for antiquities to sell them on the black market.
This is actual dialogue.
Yeah, and it was like straight out of like a B movie that we'd watch on Best of the Worst. It was just awful. But then I'm watching it, and then the Russell Crowe character appears, and I noticed a trope, or at least I'm going to create it as a trope, and we're going to recreate it for you here.
Okay.
I'm going to call it the no look look, and it means that this guy is all business. This sounds really stupid. It sounds really minute, but it's so corny looking on screen as a visual. The construction guy runs up to him and he goes, sir, wait a minute. What are you doing? And he goes, and hands him like a letter, like, and keeps looking around, as in, I'm too important to even give you the time. I'm focused on this shit.
Sure.
And it's like film school level directing. You know what I mean?
Hey, you know this area is off limits.
Talk to the judge. This is my crime scene now.
Tom Cruise's character is a thief, and multiple times throughout the movie, someone says, Tom Cruise, you're a thief.
He was kind of like a throwback to like the 80s action star, like the machismo man who sleeps around with women. And
yeah, and it was distracting because I think Tom Cruise is completely wrong for that part. I thought Tom Cruise was flat out bad in this movie. And I don't hate Tom Cruise, But if this is the first movie you'd ever seen with Tom Cruise, you'd be like, "Wow, that guy's a movie star? Like, he is bad in this. He's so miscast."
Yeah, Tom
You need
Cruise.
like a Chris Pratt.
Yeah, we can make a whole episode on why Tom Cruise is miscast in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. It was straight out weird. I think everyone goes, Tom Cruise? Because he has a pretty good track record of picking decent scripts and vehicles for himself over the past, like, 15 years.
Yeah.
A couple of exceptions, but you have all the Mission Impossible movies, which the last 3 of them have been fun, smartly written, good action adventure films.
Yeah.
The couple of sci-fi ones he did,
Edge of Tomorrow?
Edge of Tomorrow, also known as Live, Die, Repeat, right? That's that one. And there was the other one that was so-so, but it wasn't terrible. Oblivion, and a couple other movies, and then he's like, this?
Yeah.
This is like not his caliber. He's like A-list Tom Cruise, and this is like Brandon Fraser.
They cast him. Bring Brendan Fraser back. Why not? He'll work for scale now.
He'll work for scale because he breaks them a lot. I know I shouldn't be talking, but that was a damn fine joke.
That was a quality joke.
So much that it threw off my sense of balance.
Tom said, "This is bigger than anything I've ever done before."
Well, Jay, let me just wrap up what I was saying about Tom Cruise and The Mummy. And so you're like, Tom Cruise in this film? And then he seems like a guy, he should be playing like a Chris Pratt kind of aged character, like 33. Tom Cruise
Someone that's the same age as his love interests?
Yes.
Which is now a running thing with Tom Cruise movies?
Well, yeah. We saw a trailer for some other film he's in, and I'm like, is that his wife or his daughter?
Or his granddaughter?
The granddaughter. And then and I looked it up, and there's like a 25-year difference or something like that. And then I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, this lady was like, I think once you're just broke the 30-year-old mark, as a woman, you can play Tom Cruise's love interest.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
good for them.
To his credit, he does not look 58.
Well, especially not with all the digital de-aging.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing now, isn't it?
That's a thing that Hollywood doesn't like to talk about, but these aging movie stars, it's in their contracts.
Mm-hmm. They click a couple buttons on their computer, and it like smooths out crow's feet and wrinkles and stuff with magic.
Tom Cruise will be the same age forever now.
Yeah.
He can just never go out in public.
Mr. Cruise requires a 30-foot distance between him and the lens. It'll be like old episodes of Star Trek whenever you see him, where it cuts to like Dr. McCoy, and it's like perfectly in focus, and it cuts to a lady of a certain age, and it's like blurry. We gotta put that old-timer filter on. We're filming a lady, gentlemen. And usually Tom Cruise, we've discussed him many times before on this program. He's a weirdo in real life. He's strange, but as an actor, he usually transcends and does a really solid job. He's a true Hollywood actor, movie star professional.
He's got limited range, but like you mentioned, he's very good at picking the right scripts for. He knows what movies will utilize his limited range well. And this is like, he doesn't do like smarmy, cocky, like that does not.
No.
Like we say, Chris Pratt, that's the modern day actor you would cast in a role like that.
He can deliver your lines for you convincingly, and you can run around, and he's got a bit of wit to him, but yeah, he doesn't pause and do like the dramatic movie in between the blockbusters. He's just like, I'm just doing blockbusters from here on out. I did my thing.
He did Magnolia. He was good in Magnolia.
Well, yeah, Magnolia.
Playing a dickhead.
Jerry Maguire.
That reminds me, I can't possibly be the first person to make this joke, but I was very disappointed that in this movie, at no point did Tom Cruise say, "Show me the mummy." That's my only joke for this episode.
I think you need to digitally de-age your jokes. 1996 called it. Wants its joke back. Yeah, so like I said, the film starts with Nick Miller and Tom Cruise riding around in the desert looking for stuff, and they cut to old Mesopotamian statues being shot up, and ISIS does that. They blow up old things, old Buddhist statues, old antiquities from the ancient world. They blow them up and they shoot them up. And then, so they go down to this little village, and they're in Iraq somewhere. And then it's like, let's go down to the village. Tom Cruise acts like a child by cutting Nick Miller's water bag.
Yeah.
He says, let's go down to the village. And they go down there, and it's like, and cut. Whoa, we're in trouble.
So calculated.
And it was like,
It feels like a movie made in a lab.
well, yeah, the structure and the cuts and stuff, but it was also like, it had that kind of like, let's try and be a wacky, fun Marvel movie or an Indiana Jones type film.
Yeah.
And the modern day setting of Iraq with like ISIS and terrorism and stuff just felt like a really big like clash. Like I was like, oh, this isn't fun. this is awful.
This is a little city being bombed now.
Yeah, and then they bring in the airstrikes and but the premise was that Lady Mummy, who was going to be Mummy King, going to be like Cleopatra, but her father gave birth to a son who would then become the heir. So she's like, I want to be the king or queen. I'm going to kill everyone. She had to do some kind of ritualistic sacrifice to bring the god of evil to earth so that she could rule mankind, blah, blah, blah. Basic bad guy plot.
Thank God we see this flashback 6 times throughout the movie.
And they tell us in detail what happened. And then they carry her 1,000 miles away and bury her in this very, very, I guess they took the time to carve all those statues too.
Sure. They had nothing but time back then.
And since Tom Cruise is a brazen, swashbuckling dude, he just says, fuck it, cut it open. For some reason, they rigged it to where if you cut a rope that probably would have rotted over 5,000 years, it brings the sarcophagus out of the mercury.
It's in a pool of mercury, yeah.
Why would they have a system rigged up to raise it out of the pool of mercury if they wanted to keep it submerged?
And that was another moment where I was like, Tom Cruise is just terrible in this, when he makes the decision to just shoot the rope or shoot the chain. And it's showing him, and he's looking around, and he just kind of goes,
yeah.
and it was so bad.
You know what? And his casting is very calculated too.
Oh yeah, no, that's I think why they kind of decided to make this the official kickoff of the Dark Universe, because it's like, look, we got Tom Cruise. He's a movie star. These are real movies.
Yes. Because people in all sorts of foreign countries all over the world probably know who Tom Cruise is more than a Chris Pratt or a star that's more appropriate for the part.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, very calculated. He doesn't fit, but he does in the long run because of box office returns.
Sophia Boutella brings a true humanity to the Mummy.
Well, Jake Johnson dies in this movie, and then he comes back as like a spirit, like a zombie spirit, to guide Tom Cruise along, and it's exactly the same fucking thing as American Werewolf in London. Exactly.
I was murdered, an unnatural death, and now I walk the earth in limbo until the werewolf's curse is lifted.
Shut up.
Right down to that zombie character kind of being like comic relief.
You're not real.
Oh, don't be a putz, David.
So they, flat out ripped off American Werewolf in London, and even more shocking, and this is a sentence I never thought I would say about any movie ever, this movie, The Mummy, rips off Life Force, the Tobe Hooper directed Cannon Films schlock classic. The Mummy comes back, and it's sucking the life force out of people, and the people it sucks the life force out of become like zombified minions. And then there's chaos in London at the end. That's the exact same thing that's happening in Life Force. It was amazing to see a big budget movie rip off Life Force, the movie about space vampires.
Producers of Life Force, if you're still alive, look into this matter with your crack legal team.
Get on it, Tobe Hooper.
Wake up.
Put down the joint and go after the producers of The Mummy.
They're going to have negative money for you to sue them for. Actually, the budget of this film was only $125 million.
Okay.
Which, again, falls in with its calculated risk.
Yeah.
Was that It was not a bloated Ghostbusters disaster.
That's true.
Where they just said, "Oh, this is a surefire." They kept 125 million, plus marketing costs, of course. Even then, that's double that. It's still the budget of a regular big budget movie.
Yeah.
So they were smart. I bet you Tom Cruise has a little contract where he worked for less on this in order to have
back end
a
or something.
piece of the whole franchise as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
they set this movie up in a way where they can drag him back out for any of these movies that they want.
Yeah. I have a feeling
they want him to be their Robert Downey Jr.
Yes. Although his salary probably won't explode out of control, but and he's not as appealing as Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Or as good.
Yeah.
Or as funny.
Yeah.
Or as talented.
Yeah.
Or as big of a draw.
Yeah.
For the box office.
Right.
But I have a feeling Tom Cruise said, yeah. I'll be in your movie, but I want a piece of the big pie, including all the follow-ups and spin-offs and it's a Creature from the Black Lagoon, all the nonsense they're going to make from this, or maybe won't.
Or maybe won't.
But so you have a relatively small budget, which is why it felt kind of like a cheap movie, because then they could worldwide they could make their money back.
Well, speaking of budget, that's the weirdest thing to me is that they decided to make. I mean, I guess it makes sense if you're looking at it like worldwide box office. In foreign countries, you want to make something that has that sort of fun Avengers type tone. But you look at like the original Universal monster movies, they're horror movies. Do something like follow the Blumhouse model and make these very, very modestly budgeted actual horror movies. Because horror movies, especially right now, are consistently doing well. They consistently make money. People like horror films. But by making a movie like this, you've alienated those people because they're like, fuck, I don't want to see action mummy movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. Somebody said the Chinese don't like American horror films. And that's the thing.
Maybe,
Is that they want to follow that Marvel formula, even if it's a bigger risk. But you're right. If Universal scaled it back and did smaller, kind of really creepy, get Oz Perkins to direct.
There you go.
The director of a fine film called
The Black Coat's Daughter.
The Black Coat's Daughter.
It's a wonderful horror film.
Check out The Black Coat's Daughter. It's a slow burn, folks, but it's good. There were many different ways to go, and I think they went for the biggest. I don't want to say safe bet, but.
Well, I think, starting with The Mummy was probably the best option if you're going this route, because people think of the Brendan Fraser movies, and those were kind of fun adventure movies. Like, it's weird because The Mummy is like the worst monster. Fuck mummies is what I always say. Hashtag fuck mummies.
Well, Dracula and Frankenstein are a little burnt out at this point because they just did Victor Frankenstein, and then Dracula
Untold.
I was going to say Dracula 3000.
Hey, shit for brains.
Mummy, we haven't done Mummy in a while. Creature from the Black Lagoon, too goofy. The Invisible Man, and then so it's like, that's a safer bet.
Yeah.
It's all very committee think.
Yeah.
And all these, and then they introduced Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll.
Yes. Who he's okay as Dr. Jekyll. At a certain point in the movie, he transforms into Mr. Hyde, and it's laughable. He's like channeling Freddy Krueger, and not even good Freddy Krueger, like Freddy's dead Freddy Krueger.
It's weird. And Dr. Jekyll is the guy in charge of. He's the Sam Jackson.
Yeah, he's
character.
Nick Fury
Right.
for the monster cinematic universe.
Yes.
Everything we're saying sounds like the lamest shit, and it's all real.
They're doing their best. They're doing their best to capitalize on very, very old properties.
It's a hell of a lot of fun.
I think too, another thing that was not annoying to me but confusing was all the globe trotting. And I think it was because you think of the mummy, the original concept of a spooky mummy. I think late 1800s-ish is when old British guys would go over to Egypt and we're taking over and we're just going to dig around where we please. Fuck your culture.
Yeah.
And look at all these weird mummies. And then everyone's like, oh, that's spooky. They wrapped up their dead bodies and preserved them. That's creepy. So the idea that a mummy is a monster is a little dated and almost racist. You can't make a movie where a civilization's burial ritual, which is part of their culture, is a scary monster. Because then you'd have people with the signs outside the theater.
Yeah.
You'd have a bunch of white college students protesting in the streets about just how racist mummies are.
Yeah.
So Lady Mummy is not really a mummy. She's just a bad guy who they mummified.
Right.
And then they moved her over to Iraq. So they find her in Iraq. And then part of her magical dagger is in the burial chamber of Christian crusaders who also become evil mummies. So they intentionally...
As removed as possible as we can.
They intentionally took the subject matter and smeared it out amongst different cultures and religions so that you
Now it appeals to everybody.
Yes, yes. The Christian crusaders, those knights were also evil mummies. We're in Iraq now, and also a little bit of Egypt. Hey, whoa. It's like they're putting a blindfold over your eye and spinning you around. And then you have to figure out which way is the protest that you want to go to in order to complain. So you don't really know. Because really, if it was just, if this was like a Wonder Woman-esque movie where it took place in the early 1900s / late 1800s, and Tom Cruise was like, I'm Safari Man from England, and I'm just going to start digging in Egypt. I'm out for glory. I'm out to find treasures. I'm out to loot all these tombs because I'm a British man. and if they did that and he found a mummy and the mummy went, and then it would be like, this is the most racist thing. It's like when people look back at how the culture, the Indian culture was portrayed in Temple of Doom.
Sure.
Even though it was modern day farcical in a way. It was kind of like making fun of the old serials from
there's a layer of
yes,
not satire, but a self-awareness.
Yes, where it's sort of like that's how that kind of mystical stuff was portrayed in old-timey movies. We didn't understand a lot of their culture, so we thought they ate snakes and did weird shit.
Right.
So we kind of made fun of that in our safari adventure films.
Right.
And so if they did something like that, that would have been a disaster. So I think this doesn't feel like a mummy movie because it's all over the map, literally. Well, I guess we didn't warn about spoilers, but who cares? Let's skip to the end.
This is the ultimate who cares movie.
Yes. Tom Cruise's character arc is that he, this is like a Saturday morning cartoon simplistic. He's a guy who only cares about himself, but decides to save a lady. When the plane's going down during the famous plane scene, which was laughed at on the internet because they released a version that only contained temporary sound effects.
Well, it only had some of the layers. It didn't have all the tracks.
Yeah.
And somehow somebody missed it, and they uploaded it to the internet.
And Jay, you were able to download this before it was removed.
Yes.
And so we're going to take a look at that here, and then Universal will come after us immediately. Here it is. And that's all we could show you. So the plane is crashing that they're on. Tom Cruise gives blonde lady a parachute. And he's like, here's a parachute. And then she's like, you were selfless. You gave me the only parachute. He's like, I thought there was two.
Yeah.
And then so he's like, I really didn't save you. I still am kind of an asshole. But then at the end of the film, Tom Cruise heroically saves her by stabbing himself with the ceremonial dagger to become an evil person.
Right. So he scared her back to life?
I think that if you can assume that that an evil creature can suck the life out of somebody, that you can give it back. Because he does revive Jake Johnson.
Oh, that's right.
So he could be back for his wacky antics in future films. But he's like, thanks for bringing me back to life, Tom Cruise. Now we can go on more adventures. That was literally the dialogue. He even says Tom Cruise, and they just left it in the film.
I thought that was off.
They didn't have another take to use. So, So he becomes an evil monster, and so that was his character arc. He likes stealing things and going on adventures and being a man who likes to go on adventures and steal things. But now
he's an undead mummy man.
Yes.
And we see that.
The result of him saving the blonde lady's life turns him into a cursed character, and now he's the mummy. And there's a shot where they show his hands, and he has mummy bandages.
He has mummy wrapping on his hands for no reason other than, oh, he's a mummy now. I get that. It was amazing. I could not believe it.
It was pure schlock.
There's absolutely no reason for him to have that on his hands.
Well, they're in the desert. And the film opens the way it ended with him. He's got he's protected by the sand, and you can only see his eyes. And it kind of ends that way.
Well, then we get the voiceover from Dr. Jekyll. He's saying, we may have to call on him for future adventures because a monster needs to fight another monster. Come back for the next film, y'all. And then it irises out to the Looney Tunes music.
Yeah, so that's the Mummy. It's downright embarrassing.
It's as we've said, pathetic and embarrassing.
Pathetic and embarrassing. Those are the two words I think that accurately describe this movie.
If your grandfather stumbles across it on TNT at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday, he'll probably say, that was an okay movie.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I'm going to start with my recommendation. Stay far away from the Mummy. I thought it was laughably bad at points, but
not a lot. It's more you have to look at the thought process behind the movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, the movie itself is watchable, but it's more I just spent the whole time thinking about all the creative decisions that went into making it the way it is.
But knowing how these movies are made, and how on the nose some of the dialogue was made me laugh out loud. Just an average viewer probably wouldn't.
Sure.
But when the lady starts doing the exposition, and it's very badly written.
Yeah.
I laughed at that, or some of the way that things were revealed. I think I even said
you were just saying the dialogue before it happened.
It's like, this isn't a tomb. And I'm like, it's a prison. It's a prison. And then it wasn't designed to keep people out. It was designed to keep her in.
It was designed to keep her in. We got it.
Yes.
Move along.
Yes. Oh my God. And she just starts immediately talking into her little Bluetooth, I'm Professor so-and-so, and I'm here to log what I find here. Translation, tell the audience what's going on. Yep. Oh my God. So I laughed at stuff like that, but I wanted it to be over, and I was miserable, and I fell asleep, and it was too loud. I'm sorry, Universal Studios Monster Movies Tour Expanded Universe, you suck. You have these great properties, these classic characters, and
that's the worst part of all is
you're not doing anything clever with them.
Yeah.
It's so exhausting. It's so exhausting.
If you haven't seen Bride of Frankenstein, watch Bride of Frankenstein. It's a legitimately great movie, and it's really fucking weird. So I would not recommend this movie because I don't want to encourage this.
We're talking to you, Chinese.
Maybe it won't play in China because of the ghosts-ish elements. Yeah, maybe. Wouldn't that be great? This is definitely a huge misstep right out of the gate, though. This is the putting the cart before the horse.
Big time. Big time. Just like the Ghost Corps.
Yes, exactly like that.
So stay far, far away from any theaters playing The Mummy. Don't even watch other movies in the theater, in the same theater. You just might be exposed to it somehow. It's like a deadly pathogen. Wait till everything's gone from that theater and it's been cleaned. Then go back to watching movies again.
Okay.
So you might catch a ticket stub on the floor, an old poster.
It'd be like Alien Covenant, the stub kind of flies up and gets into your brain.
Yes, and flies into your ear. And then all you hear is... Stop it, movies. Stop it. It's ruining my life. Hello and welcome to Review, a new series from Red Letter Media. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jay.
I'm Mike.
Still?
Still.
Okay. That's a really clever title for a show, by the way.
Thanks.
Who came up with that?
I did.
It wasn't Rich Evans?
Nope.
Rich Evans wanted to call the show the Kevin Smith Hour for some reason.
He also wanted to call it On Cinema.
Yeah. I think that one's taken, though.
I think so, yeah. But anyway, a lot of people ask for us to talk about movies we like instead of watching bad B-movies or bitching about new Hollywood films that suck. And this show is not intended to replace Half in the Bag or Best of the Worst.
No.
So before anyone starts typing that into their YouTube comment fields,
There's already 120 comments asking that.
you can stop. But really, we're here today to talk about one of our favorite movies of all time, Tremors. Occasionally, we may talk about a movie that we hate. You never know.
Or a good bad movie if it doesn't belong on Best of the Worst, where we want to break it down a little more thoroughly.
Yeah, and it's also meant to highlight movies that you may or may not have seen.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk about, today, for example, we're going to talk about Tremors, and if you haven't seen it, maybe this episode of Review will motivate you to go and buy it, or rent it, or watch it.
Rent it from your local Blockbuster.
Yep.
So, Mike, what is so special about this Kevin Bacon movie about worms under the ground that eat people?
Tremors is one of the most awesomest movies ever made. It is, for some reason, and you can say, like, I don't know, it does hold up.
Absolutely.
I've rewatched it. It holds up almost 100%, except for one shot. Tremors is like, it's like a Ghostbusters level film where it achieves near perfection in every aspect of it.
Which is ironic, because the name of the town in the movie is Perfection, Nevada.
Perfection, Nevada. It's like they knew.
Yes.
It's a hokey monster movie. It's a throwback kind of monster movie, but it is perfect in its execution, creativity.
Screenplay, structure.
The screenplay is flawless. And that's what I think that's a big thing for me, because I'm a structure guy.
Yeah.
And there are other movies that I will enjoy that are completely structureless and just weird. But this movie is perfect. And I think that's what I really like about it. And we'll talk about what the premise is. I love the creativity.
Well, you mentioned that it's kind of hokey monster movie. I would say what makes it special is that it's not hokey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hokey premise that's played not serious, because it's obviously a very comedic movie, but the horror aspects or the monster aspects are played straight. It's the balance of the humor and the serious threat, I think, is handled really well.
Look, these creatures are absolutely unprecedented.
Yeah, but where do they come from?
It's like it has the Ghostbusters tone, where there's a serious threat and there's humor, but it's very dry, and everything it's not like, there's no ghost that throws up ectoplasm all over someone's face and they go, oh no, it got in my butt crack.
Mike, I didn't know you hate women.
What? Well, what's the premise?
Well, the premise is it takes place in almost the middle of nowhere, Perfection, Nevada. Population 14, right?
It's 14, I believe.
14. It's a tiny little, it's not even a town. It's like 3 buildings.
So there's a trailer, there's one house, and Chang's convenience store.
Chang's convenience store. And this town has to deal with monsters, these giant underground worms with little snake monsters for tongues, and then just having to deal with this monster crisis.
Yeah, well,
how they band together as a town to deal with it. And that's one of the things I like, too, is that people always think of this movie as like Kevin Bacon's in it, but it really is an ensemble. Mm-hmm. It is about this whole town, and they're all really well fleshed out and really distinct characters.
Well, that's one of the screenplay elements that I absolutely love, is how well it's structured. And in screenplay terms, your first 10 minutes are very important. They're the 10 minutes, 10 pages are what hooks you in. We get introduced to Val and Earl, Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon, and they're junkers.
Wait, Fred Ward and who?
Kevin Bacon.
And Kevin Bacon?
Yes, yes. And ironically, throughout the entire film, there is a group of tremors under the ground that keep following him.
Oh, I get it.
No, you shouldn't. And very early on, it's established they have a case of the not gays.
You will have long blonde hair, big green eyes, world-class breasts, ass that won't quit, and legs that go all the way up.
They run into a female college student who's a student of seismology, who's maintaining the equipment that read the tremors under the ground, aka love interest. Great. And then throughout the first 10 minutes of the film, we are introduced to almost every major character. Burt Gummer, played by Michael Gross, the dad from Family Ties, Reba McEntire, the little girl from Jurassic Park and her mom. The little girl from Jurassic Park bounces around on a pogo stick.
Her mom is played by Charlotte Stewart, who's a David Lynch regular.
Okay.
She was Mary X in Eraserhead.
All right.
That's what I like. Lots of good character actors in this.
Yeah,
Because then
yeah.
there's Chang,
Yep.
who is played by the actor that's been in multiple John Carpenter movies. He was Egg Shen in Big Trouble in Little China.
But really, like, there's a lot of little things that get set up. I think Chang's soda refrigerator, like when it goes through its refrigeration cycle and it makes all that noise, I think they set that up.
Oh, yeah.
But basically, the 10-minute mark is when they decide to leave, Val and Earl decide to leave Perfection. They say, screw it, after a septic tank hose breaks and squirts poop in their face. They say, fuck this, we're out of here. And then they start encountering signs of the tremors.
Hey, hold up. That's Edgar Deems.
You mean he sat up there 3 or 4 days? He sat up there and just died of thirst?
And it follows the Jaws formula of Jaws did it just because they couldn't get their mechanical shark to work, but that was to the movie's advantage, where we just don't see much of the monsters. And when you first do, it's the little snake thing, and you're like, oh, I guess that's it. And then it turns out it's attached to a much larger creature.
Stakes raised. We have gigantic underground worms that are killing people. And that, of course, leads to the discovery, the best thing of all.
Damn it. You guys, this is all Kyle's mom's fault. Shut up, Cartman. Kyle's mom is the one that started that damn club, and all because she's a big, fat, stupid bitch. Don't say it, Cartman. Well, don't do it, Cartman. Well, I'm warning you. Okay, okay. I'm getting pretty sick of him calling my mom. Well, Kyle's mom's a bitch. She's a big, fat bitch. She's the biggest bitch in the whole wide world. She's a stupid bitch, and everyone's a bitch. She's a bitch to all the boys and girls. Shut your fucking mouth, Cartman. On Monday she's a bitch, on Tuesday she's a bitch, and Wednesday to Saturday she's a bitch. Then on Sunday, just to be different, she's a super king, Kamehameha, bitch. Come on, you all know the words. Have you ever met my friend Kyle's mom? She's the biggest bitch in the whole wide world. She's a mean old bitch, and she has stupid hair. She's a bitch, 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 bitch. Bitch, 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 bitch. She's a stupid bitch. Kyle's mom's a bitch, and she's just a dirty bitch. Talk to kids around the world, it might go a little bit something like this.
Mama, you're having one.
You ever met my friend Kyle's mom? She's the biggest bitch in the whole wide world. She's a mean old bitch, and she has stupid hair. She's a bitch, 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 bitch. Bitch, 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 she's a stupid bitch. Kyle's mom's a bitch, and she's just a dirty bitch. I really mean it, Kyle's mom. She's a big fat fucking bitch. Big fat fucking bitch, Kyle's mom. What? Oh, fuck. Damn it.
סביב לי עמי, מעתה ועד עולם. ירושלים, הרים סביב לו, והשם סביב לי עמי, מעתה ועד עולם. ירושלים, ירושלים, הרים סביב לו, והשם סביב לי עמי, מעתה ועד עולם. ירושלים, ירושלים, הרים סביב לו, והשם סביב לי עמי, מעתה ועד עולם. ירושלים, הרים סביב לו, סביב לי עמי, מעתה ועד עולם. ירושלים, הרים סביב לו, והשם סביב לי עמי, מעתה ועד עולם. ירושלים, ירושלים, הרים סביב לו, והשם סביב לי עמי, מעתה ועד עולם. ירושלים.
Today is one of